at Chris Gambino. I'm Robbie Basil. Colin, unfortunately, is going to be a little bit late to the show today, but we got a great show planned for you guys. We're going to do our MLB season preview. Yes, we are less than a month away from the season, but don't worry. We got some big events planned, including an MLB opening day stream, because I believe opening day is Thursday this year.
Yeah.
But we're going to have an opening day stream March 30th. Make sure you tune into that. We might bring Christian back. We'll see. We have nothing yet official, but on that note, let's begin our preview. Of course, we're going to do the Mets and the Yankees. We'll do some contenders, some pretenders, under and overachieving, and all that fun stuff. But we're going to kick it off with the New York Mets here, because we're going to let you and Colin do it.
Right.
The New York Mets. Going back to some of the offseason moves, we see Justin Verlander sign with the Mets. You lose Jacob deGrom. You lose Taijuan Walker, Chris Bassett, and a couple other big names, and you replace them with Jose Quintana, who got absolutely annihilated a couple of days ago. But there's some pieces that they made some other positive strides, though. You re-signed Brandon Nimmo to a decent contract, 8-year extension. I like the contract. You re-signed Jeff McNeil to the biggest steal I've ever seen for a batting title winner, around $15 million AAV. So they've made some positive moves. They've added pieces to the bullpen after losing a couple, with Brooks Raley just as the most notable one to me. And you, of course, you re-signed and David Robertson, and re-signing Edwin Diaz, which I think was one of the most important moves they've done in the season. Oh, by the way, they've added Kodai Senga, who I believe makes his debut this weekend. So there's a lot of positives. Now, the concern right now with the Mets is, look at the division they're playing in. You have Philadelphia, who added Trey Turner. You have the Braves, who are the Braves, and they're going to find a way to win in September and make a run for first place. The unfortunate part is 100 wins will not win you this division. Will not guarantee you a division win. I think all three of those top teams, there's a complete fall off. If you look at the entire NL East, from the top three down to the bottom two, because like the Marlins and the Nationals, they're not there yet. When you look at the Marlins starting pitching, not it. Then we got some pieces. They got Alcantara, but their bullpen, not it.
No, it's mostly with the Marlins. It's definitely the offense.
The offense as well, yeah.
But yeah, as you said, it's gonna be a very tough division.
So I'm looking at this as a whole. Division winner, I want to say the Mets. I will say the Mets. Winning 102 games will win this division this season. I think the Braves are going to have a little bit of an issue at short, losing Swanson. I think he was a big contributing factor to last season and previous years before. I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. Braves, though, win 99 games. That is my prediction for the Braves. And the Phillies go out and win 97. A fair number for what they can do. I think 97. They have Nola. They have Wheeler. They've added pieces as well with mentioning Trey Turner. I think that's a reasonable spot for Philadelphia. What do you think of the NL East?
Well, I think it's one of the best divisions in baseball. I think it's probably the second best. I think the best is still the AL East. Looking at the Mets offseason, look, you covered it. They lost a lot of pieces, but I think they did a great job at recovering from that. I think what the Mets have in this rotation is a lot more security and insurance. You know Verlander is going to pitch. Can he get hurt? Yeah. But you know...
Will he get hurt? Probably.
No, well, no,
that's
you
don't know
the thing.
That, though.
deGrom, I mean, you can see he's already kind of having issues health-wise with the Rangers, and you know more of those are eventually going to come. If Verlander had his Tommy John, that took him out for 2 years. He won the Cy Young. I don't care what he did in the postseason. I think he was a better option than deGrom. As we said, it's also better for the Mets' future. I love the Kodai Senga signing. It's very team-friendly. He's going to be in the running, I think, for Rookie of the Year. And as a
does he count as a rookie, though?
Yes, he does, because it's his first year in Major League Baseball. But he is a nasty pitcher. The problem with him is the control.
Yes.
But
we'll see how that turns out this weekend when he pitches, for sure.
I think it's definitely worth taking a risk on.
Yeah.
I love the Jose Quintana signing. What these signings were very team-friendly. The bullpen, they brought in Raley, as you mentioned, and also David Robertson, who was a little iffy in the postseason with the Phillies, but overall really good. They brought back Edwin Diaz and they extended Jeff McNeil, brought back Brandon Nimmo, moves they needed to make. And the future's looking bright for the Mets. They have Francisco Alvarez, who looks like he could be the catcher for the future. Brett Beatty after this season.
Ronnie Mauricio. I forgot to mention him. Ronnie Mauricio is going off this spring.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be between him and Beatty. You're going to have to find who's going to be that guy to stay.
Who would you take? Who would you?
I don't know.
Right now,
you have to take.
I would take Ronnie Mauricio.
I mean,
I like Mauricio better. I think he's more balanced. Beatty, you're going to see more power,
think-
a little less contact. Mauricio, I love his glove. I love it. I think he's the perfect defender.
I think
for-
with Beatty is he's more of a third baseman. He definitely has played that. You would have to move Mauricio to third base, but he's a shortstop.
Does he not play play third? I thought he played third already.
He may be playing third because they're trying to experiment with both of them.
Yeah.
You're gonna find who is better, and you're gonna play them kind of not exactly the same, but a similar situation with the Yankees right now with Volpe and Peraza. You're gonna find who's maybe is the better third baseman. Thing is, Lindor's not going anywhere. McNeil's not going anywhere. Alonso shouldn't be going anywhere, although you don't know what's going to happen there.
You never know. I think they're trying to make a deal with him, but you never know.
I mean, and then it gets to the point where there really wasn't much else out there for Steve Cohen to spend money on. He got Correa, basically. He almost did. He was going to do that until, obviously the health issues became a concern. And that's a point where you don't even think about the money, where you stop worrying about the money, regardless of how much money you have. And you think more along the lines of how is that guy going to affect your team come 2028? Is he going to be the same guy he is now with the health issues? So that was definitely they definitely, I think, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
But next offseason is looking like it can be great for the Mets.
It's going to be interesting. I think the big Manny Machado's signing already. Yes. But my big thing will be, what will Ohtani do?
Right.
That's going to be the conversation we're going to have.
And, Ohtani is a guy who I think, and I'll talk about the Yankees in a second, but I think the Yankees are also going to be in the running for Shohei Ohtani as well. I think a lot of teams are.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that when that time comes, hopefully, assuming we still have this podcast by then.
We should, by the way. We should.
Unless, of course, we should. Of course, unless Ohtani decides to extend his tenure with the Angels. But, of course, I think even a guy who's possibly going to be a free agent next year is Alex Bregman, who's mentioned he might want to test the waters of free agency.
I think he would re-sign. I think he would just want to.
Very well could.
I think he would want to test his value. Remember when Anthony Rendon was free agent?
Right.
Remember, I remember the same thing. He says, "I'm going to test the waters and see what I get," and he's getting paid $35 million a year to do absolutely nothing.
Well, he's hurt.
I mean, he's been hurt a lot, but that's the stats don't justify that contract. I don't think really the $35 million was the right value for a player.
I think the Angels put the money in the wrong spot, but they did that once.
They do that a lot. They do that a lot, though.
They said that once they did that once they found themselves not in the running for Garrett Cole. But yeah, for the New York Mets, I think they definitely got better, more insurance. I think they got more. Like I said, there really wasn't much out there offensively to improve from. But the pitching they needed improving in, and that's great. But as you mentioned, the division is not.
Do you really think the Mets rotation got better than what it was last year?
I think it did. I think Bassett's a really good pitcher with the Blue Jays, but
Taiwan, I didn't like Taiwan's inconsistency. Yeah, and I think that's the part that killed me the most.
Bassett had a little bit of that as well. I mean,
especially in September, yes.
Right, and one day he'll go out, throw 8 innings, shutout. Next day, 3 innings, 8 runs.
That's why he in free agency he screamed Toronto Blue Jays.
Right, and that's
exactly what they're going for.
It's not saying that Verlander's not ever going to do that, although he's a lot better than any of the guys. I mean, apart from DeGrom, but DeGrom again barely pitched. And then Kodai Senga is a question mark, but
that's the biggest question mark.
He's like a prospect.
I love his contract though. His contract's insane.
But it's Japanese pitchers have a good track record of when it comes to their first year in Major League Baseball.
Other than Ohtani, because he got hurt.
Even Ohtani, he got hurt. But he still pitched well.
I remember I remember watching his first game. I was in a hotel for this. He hit an absolute nuke, and in his first at bat, I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear Japanese Babe Ruth, good things were coming there.
Hey, yeah.
But even got Tanaka, Hiroki Kuroda, Hideo Nomo.
Hiroki Kuroda, I've not heard that name in a minute.
Daisuke Matsuzaka, right? These guys, good first 2 years. Ohtani is the outlier. I mean, he's been great for a long time. But these Japanese pitchers do well when they come over here, usually, especially when they're higher touted. Of course, you have your the one from the Mariners who's in the Blue Jays now. Kikuchi.
He's been okay. That contract will not be justified.
Right. And
he's getting overpaid a lot. But he's still a decent pitcher. I believe he's going to be on their WBC team as well. So, I mean.
But, as I'm saying, right, I think that was a question mark, a risk worth taking. And then Quintana's a decent older lefty pitcher who was good with the Cardinals.
I mean, they needed a lefty, and you got yourself a lefty. It's just it's a question mark as a lefty because he had one. I remember him with he started with the White Sox, right? He pitched well with the White Sox. He went to the Cubs. He was inconsistent. I'll call that tenure inconsistent because he had a couple good seasons and then he blew up with like a 7-year.
That was also a very tough trade for the Cubs.
Yes, That was
You see Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease in that deal.
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, as you mentioned, the division's getting a lot better. No, it's not getting easier for the Mets. The Braves didn't do all that much.
They didn't need
lost Kenley Jansen.
They
but
lost Dansby Swanson,
right,
and they didn't really need to do much to add. They used
they didn't need,
prospects.
but that's the thing. They don't need to because they have a great farm system. They have a great core of
Who is their
younger
GM?
guys. Alex Antopoulos.
He's amazing.
He is a very good GM. They have Matt Olson,
Let
Austin
me
Riley.
explain real quick
Ronald
why
Acuna.
I want to explain something real quick.
Vaughn Grissom's going to slide right
Vaughn
in that
Grissom.
shortstop, I think.
He's the best GM in the league for one reason and one reason only. He has gotten his young players to the greatest contracts I've ever seen. That is the definition of what we like to call in this sport the game of the finesse, where you find the young players like, yeah, we'll give you $12 million a year for like 7 years. I don't know, just throwing out a term out there, and you're gonna pay a guy like Michael Harris like $9 million for 8 years, and he could possibly be. I'm not gonna say he will be a top 5 center fielder in the game of baseball. I think he could be with the potential that he has, but you're paying for what he's having now, and then eventually in the future he could still be getting paid $9 million and be an absolute steal.
I love Michael Harris and that everyone else on that team. It's a very good young team, and yeah, as you mentioned, that is almost unheard of. I think it's something teams need to look at because what you do in that situation, you tell these guys, look, I mean, we're going to give you this money now. You could bet on yourself, sure, but we're giving you this money now. This is good money for some of these guys, for all these guys, right? This is money that if I was presented that contract, I would 100% take it because it's money that these guys have never seen before. So they're taking that, betting on themselves. And they're not insanely long. I mean, Acuna is going to be a free agent, hopefully still in his prime, and get a big deal. Is
he on a long contract as well?
He signed a 10-year deal a few years ago, so I would assume he's.
I think he's got like 6 years on it still.
You figure he probably is going to be in his late 20s, 30 maybe when he's.
I think it's like 30, 31 probably.
Right, and
he's getting another 10-year deal.
You have this money. You stay with the Braves for a while. It's a good place to play. They like playing there. It's a good atmosphere, good fans, great stadium. I've never been there, but I hear it is great.
Yeah.
What it allows them to do is when they are in that prime, they can still leave, or if they really want to stay, they can stay. I think that's something other teams need to look at more. But then you also have the Phillies, who got a lot better this offseason, of course, making it to the World Series, but that was more of a Cinderella run. If they stayed the same, they probably wouldn't make it back there. They didn't. They added Trey Turner. They casually added a franchise player this offseason, Trey Turner, who is very simply one of the best players in baseball. He is.
I think he's top 5.
I don't know about that, but
he's close to top 5.
He's definitely up there. He is a tremendous talent. He is very fast, contact, power. What?
No, it's like you casually just said he's very fast. Yeah, no, he's the fastest player in the league. One of the fastest players.
Yeah,
I think he's top 3 fastest players.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he knows how to steal bases. He knows how to play defense. You can put him at short. You can put him in center field. I don't care.
And you put him in that lineup, he's definitely not a guy who's going to feel the pressure.
You can put him anywhere.
Right.
You can literally put him anywhere, which is the best part.
He's the type of guy. He's going to fit right into that city perfectly. I think that city really. It's different from New York. It is New York. It's tough to play here, but I don't even know how to explain it. In Philly.
I don't know how it is tough there as well. I mean, the fans there, I know.
I guess it is similar. It's just
not as much as the others. Like
right.
not as like high of an extent.
I think in New York, the fans are more passionate and they will boo. I guess it
because
is
we don't win anything. No New York team really wins anything, and there's desperation.
I guess that's part of it, but it's we want to see our teams when we have high expectations. We pay a lot of money over here to see our teams, and over in Philly, I mean, they're paying Harper. Harper's lived up to the hype.
Kyle Schwarber,
but
they're paying him now as well. You're paying Trey Turner now. You have the expectation. It's just, can they live up? Because last year, did we really have any expectations for the Phillies? I didn't personally. And they made the moves at the deadline that they needed to make, and for once, it turned out for them. It's just gonna be how far enough can your bullpen go? And how deep are they?
And they added Matt Strom. They extended Jose Alvarado. There was somebody else they added.
I don't remember.
Someone. Oh, Craig Kimbrell.
Craig Kimbrell,
who's not the best, but it's still.
Who gets? By the way, he gets rocked by the Mets. The Mets have torched him his career. I think his ERA. I saw that stat about it last year. His ERA is like 4. I think the 2 pitchers the Mets torched the most are Craig Kimbrell and Sean Doolittle. Those are the Nationals. Speaking of the Nationals, Trey Turner. How do you think he'll be treated in Washington? I think he'll get booed
He's
off the
traded
field.
away. I mean, I don't know. He didn't really leave. Harper's a guy who every time he goes back to Washington,
Gets booed.
assuming there are
Deserves
fans
it.
at the games,
Yeah.
will get booed. But I mean, this guy was traded, Trey Turner. He was traded away from the Nationals. I
I still can't believe that trade. By the way, that trade and all will be justified. How good? Because Josiah Gray, I love him. Phenomenal starter. I think he's a ton of potential. They got that catcher. Was it Kyber Ruiz?
It's
Kyber Ruiz.
Hey, I mean,
He looks kind of nice. The other two prospects, I don't really remember who they are. I haven't really heard much about them from that trade, but it's really been those two. And Josiah Gray, I think, is gonna be like a top 3 starter on that team. Now, granted, their rotation is horrible in comparison to the other few teams in the league in that division, but I mean, Josiah Gray is gonna make a name for himself. I think he has a ton of potential.
Yeah, no, yeah, and then the Nationals, they're just very simply rebuilding, right? They're taking the
I
pieces.
still
they
can't believe the
can,
way they blew it up.
I mean, you kind of had to. The guys were getting older.
They're like the Brooklyn Nets. They had a great team around them. They won a World Series.
Yeah, and then what did they do the next year and the year
blew
after?
it up.
They didn't do well. But yeah, I mean, with Trey Turner, I think Philly's different from New York in that with Philly, they care about the result. Same thing here in New York, but in New York, you have to have, you have to be able to deal with the pressure. Same thing in Philly, but in Philly, I think they're going to focus more on the big guys over in Philly. So you got your Harper, your Castellanos, your Schwarber.
Right.
Turner could slide right in there and be a
Your
big piece
Nolas
for them.
and Wheeler
and be able to deal with that pressure. In New York, everyone's going to get the pressure on them. So you really, I don't know if there's more pressure in New York, but it's
an interesting debate.
In Philly, they will riot if they lose. New York, they'll boo, they'll go nuts. They will remember who did everything, who made every error, who made every mistake. So I think Trey Turner fits that city perfectly. He's going to be a nice under the radar piece that the fans are going to love, but it's going to make that team a lot better. And I think it's going to make it a lot easier for Harper to do better, right? He'll have that runner on first base a lot of the time. But moving on, I mean, I think, I guess, we talk about the New York Yankees.
Yeah, let's trend to the Bronx. We'll get Colin's take. When he comes back, that'll be the first thing we ask him. We don't know where he is. But New York Yankees, I don't know. What would you rate this offseason from the Yankees? I mean, shortstop, by the way, Anthony Volpe from spring training. He looks kind of nice. Oswaldo Peraza. That's how you say it, right? Oswald Peraza. Yeah. He looks kind of decent, but I have to ask you this question on stream. IKF in left field?
Okay. I'll
really?
Get to that. Well, you asked me what I would grade this offseason. I think I would give it a B+.
Okay.
I think. Or
by the way, the Mets one, for context, Mets one, I'm giving it a B+ as well.
I don't know.
B+, A-. I'm trending in between that because I think they've added, but losing DeGrom hurts the grade just because of DeGrom.
Let me rephrase what I said before. I think I give both New York teams A- close to A.
Okay.
I just think with the Yankees, all right, because here's the thing with the Yanks, right? You brought back Aaron Judge. You brought back Anthony Rizzo. You needed to do both of those things, right? That's great. There was no exceptions. There were no other options there. There were no other options in free agency. You had to bring both of those guys back. They then brought in Carlos Rodon, which I absolutely love. He makes this rotation so much more better. Great
signing. Oh my god,
so much better. Now as good as I liked Tyone, but he's not Rodon. I think as long as Rodon stays healthy, he's got the personality for New York too. That I don't think he's going to let the pressure get to him. I think he's adjusting to the media. I know he seemed a little nervous his first couple times, but I think he'll be all right. I think he's saying the right things. As long as he stays healthy, he's got that bulldog mentality. Yells whenever he gets a big strikeout off the mound. We need that here. We need that on the Yankees. And I think he's going to slide into this rotation perfectly. A power lefty in the Bronx. We haven't had that in a very long time. I've never seen that with the Yankees. And I don't think Yankee fans have seen that for a really long time. I think the last real power lefty that's been here was Randy Johnson. He wasn't even really that good here.
Yeah.
But he was still, opening day starter like twice.
I remember, by the way, talking about Randy Johnson, going back to the 90s. I remember this. I needed to bring this up eventually because I knew you were going to bring him up one day. He almost got traded for Mariano Rivera?
I heard that,
yeah. Yeah, almost crazy. A 1-for-1. And the Mariners said, F off. We don't need Mariano Rivera. They both are, by the way, are phenomenal players.
Right.
By the way,
that's one
would
of
you
those
have done that
trades.
trade or get Randy Johnson for Mariano
No.
Rivera? I didn't think so.
No, I
But
mean,
continue, please.
regard, you got 5 championships out of it. I'll take that over any. I would not risk that. Anyway, but of course, this is the exact same lineup from last year. They didn't make any changes. They didn't lose really. They only lost Matt Carpenter, but again,
And Joey Gallo. You traded Joey
well,
Gallo.
that was
sad.
during the season. But they didn't really lose anybody. They didn't gain anybody. They didn't trade Donaldson, Hicks, or IKF. I wanted at least one of those three to be gone because, of course, Donaldson was not very good last year. He was very good defensively, but with the bat, terrible. And it seems like, of course, he can't get worse than what he was last year. It was a significant drop off because with him in 2021, the advanced numbers were still there. But everything else just completely plummeted last year. It was terrible. He got a couple of clutch hits, but awful overall. Huge contract too. I'm not gonna get into what the Twins trade was because I've talked about that way too much on this podcast already. Aaron Hicks, futile, terrible player, not that good defensively at all anymore. With the
How much you paying him?
At the plate? $10 million a year.
That's not that horrible.
The plate, it adds up. It adds up.
It adds up.
Not to mention, right, in that next year, this team is going to be paying $40 million combined to Donaldson, Hicks, and IKF. That is not something to scoff at. That is not something to sneeze at. That is a lot of money for 1 year. That could get you probably. I mean, I don't know about Correa, but it could have gotten you somebody in the past, some big free agent, $40 million, right? But instead, you have these three. The biggest problem I see, but right, all right. Before I get to what I think the biggest problem is, it's a good team. Let's be realistic here for a second. It's a very good team. They're gonna most likely. I don't think it's crazy to say this team is the best team in the division, and I think they are the second best team in the American League behind the Astros. They are a really good team. Yes, adding Rodon does make this team a better team, regardless of what they didn't do to improve this offense. Even if Judge doesn't hit 60 home runs next year, I think it's still a good offense in the regular season, and the bullpen is still really good, despite maybe you not or some fans not knowing a lot of the names in the bullpen.
I mean, I know a couple. I mean, I know
right. It's just
Clay Holmes, Loizaga.
Right. It's just maybe it's not your big names anymore, but they're very good. It's a very good bullpen. I think it will be one of the best.
I think it's a sleeper. I do think it is a sleeper to be like. I don't
even think it's a sleeper. Honestly, I think
it's not a sleeper to win. To be the best bullpen in the league. You don't think it is?
I don't think it is. I think it's just one of the best already. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I don't know. I think it's like. It's so hit or miss. Like you saw Clay Holmes in the first half last year compared to the second half. He fell off a little bit.
Right, but I think there's options there. I think even a guy like Loizaga.
I love Loizaga. Oh my god, I love Loizaga.
Right, he's incredible.
I wish he's a Met. I would trade. I don't know what I would trade, but I would trade for Loizaga in about 5 seconds because I think he's immense talent.
The Yankees, someone good. He is really good. Arenacchio, Wandy Peralta. It's a good bullpen. So I think this team can make the playoffs next year for sure. I think they can win the division easily. And despite the Blue Jays getting a lot better and the Orioles getting younger and the Rays still being there, despite them losing Glasnow recently, I think this team is really good. I think they can definitely win north of 95 games.
Yeah.
I think they can make it back to the ALCS easily. The problem is, what are they going to do once they get there? And a lot can change once we get there. A lot can change. But, of course, right, Bader, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, those guys, and the catchers, Trevino and Higashioka, those guys, those are your locks. Those are your you know what you're going to get from those guys next year.
Everything else is inconsistent as all heck.
The problem is the infield. I think there's way too many guys on this roster for the infield.
So if you had to move, I know that the probability of moving Donaldson, IKF is small. I'm going to say small, even though it should be bigger. I think we would both agree that it should be bigger than what they make it. Who do you think would the Yankees move from that or move from the infield entirely? Demote if they're a prospect like a Peraza or trade to free up that infield a little bit more? Do you have like an idea of someone who they could trade?
Well, IKF. I mean, I think he's the
Besides
clear
them,
choice.
like I said, like
Oh,
IKF,
besides,
IKF and Donaldson.
well, you can move IKF.
You can move
The
IKF.
problem with the
absolutely.
Yankees is I think they're trying to justify this Twins trade. They're really trying to salvage as much as they can.
It's
and
never going to happen.
It's listen. The problem, you see, I get it. I can understand why, because this was I think an all-time bad trade from Cashman. Like this is it's not the same as giving up prospect for Sonny Gray, because all right, a lot of teams do that, right? Look at the Cardinals, right? They've made many great moves. They also made the Marcell Ozuna trade, where Marcell Ozuna was not that good for them, and they traded Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen, who's on the Diamondbacks now and doing great for them. The Cardinals would love those guys, right? So teams make bad trades, but that team, that trade made last year made 0 sense, right?
Yeah.
Even a trade like the Sonny Gray trade, that made sense. It made sense at that time, right? When you're trading prospects for a star or a very good player, they make sense, those trades. That made no sense. You took on money when you could add a better player, and you tried to move a player who doesn't play a certain position at that position that he doesn't really know how to play. And it was just ridiculous. So it really hurt the team's chances of winning last year, I think. Of course, going into the season, we were excited for it, but it really hurt that team. I mean, I think it was just an unnecessary change in the clubhouse, on the roster. It really, I think, of course, moving from Gio Urshela to Josh Donaldson. I mean,
do
that was
you
just
like that?
Unnecessary.
It's
I would
unnecessary.
not have done it. It was unnecessary. And if they had Correa and Urshela on the left side of that infield, I think it's a better team. I don't think they're as bad. I don't think the offense is as bad going down the stretch. But anyway,
So what would you
point.
rank? What would you put the division now? So standings in that division, who do you have?
And I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But and this is why I experimented, or I discussed moving on from Gleyber Torres, because what plans does he really have for this team? What does this team plan to do with Gleyber after the season? Is he? Of course, yes. A lot comes down to what he does this season, but he has value. What if he isn't good this season? He's gonna have no value, and so you're gonna have to be forced to pay him. You're gonna be forced to pay him next year, and he's gonna have no value. And I mean, then now that's gonna be another player you're not gonna be able to move.
Yeah.
Donaldson, IKF, and Hicks will not Hicks, but Donaldson and IKF hopefully off the roster next year. But really, I think they should have moved somebody. They still can, but I think the big thing is they gotta let the young guys play. I'd love to see Volpe and Peraza opening day starters, but they're
Do you
not
think they
going
will?
to be. I think
You don't think so?
Peraza probably. I think Volpe. I've heard that they don't view Volpe as the option as the option for shortstop, and I think they're going to move him over to second or third, and I think I think they gotta I think a lot of what they couldn't do this offseason is because there wasn't much out there either, and yes, also it's because of the mistakes they've made in the past, right? They didn't have them. They don't want to go over the luxury tax, so they didn't have that money to get anybody like Correa or Turner.
No, it's a perfect thing you said. By the way, I just want to give my quick pointers as well. You're 100% right. Gleyber Torres, I don't know. I think he still has a good amount of potential at second base, or wherever the heck you want to put him at this point. It's unfortunate that you guys don't want to bring up the top prospects, because there are teams that would gladly take them. Baltimore, like, just giving an example, but I know you're not going to move them. But there are teams that I think if you don't play them this year at the deadline, looking in the future, I think there are teams that could possibly trade for them if you're really that stupid. But I don't think the Yankees would do that.
No,
but getting into the next part, standings. How many wins? I know I love that division, by the way. Erase Boston because they're going to do nothing. How would you rank that division with how many wins? Because I think we both have the same division winner. The rest of it, I have no idea.
Well, I think the Yankees are going to win the division.
Agreed.
I think
100% agree.
I mean, I think they're the best team in the division by far. Not by far.
I wouldn't say by far. Yeah.
I think they're definitely the best team.
Okay.
I think obviously adding Rodon, I think that makes them a better baseball team, right? I think it is better despite the offense not getting better. I think the Blue Jays come in second. I think they got I think they got silently a lot better.
Yeah.
I think adding Bassett was a good move.
I-
I loved the Dalton Varsho move. I
Oh,
think he fit perfectly.
I hate that they traded Teoscar. I didn't think they needed to do that.
But that's the thing is what the Blue Jays did. That's why I said they got silently better is because they got more diverse in the lineup. They added Kevin Kiermaier. They added Dalton Varsho. And if you look at the other guys who they have, right, everyone else in that lineup who's a righty was, untouchable.
Yeah.
Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette, the catchers Kirk and
you had
Jansen.
Jansen.
You think of even like Whit Merrifield, you just acquired him. You signed George Springer to that big deal. You weren't trading him. So the only guys you could have moved were Teoscar and Lourdes Gurriel.
I think they could have moved Kevin Biggio. Because he's been inconsistent like crazy.
I think he has more of a utility role in the team, but
I agree.
Him and Merrifield. So I think they got better, and I think even getting Eric Swanson in that deal, I thought it was I thought that they made good moves. So I think they're the second best team, and I think a lot of it's also going to be relying on guys that have better years, like Berrios.
Yes,
and they still have Alek Manoah and Kevin Gausman, so that's good. So they got a lot better. I think they're the second best team. I think the Yankees got to watch out for them because the Yankees' inability to get better offensively. It's when they're facing those Blue Jays pitchers and the Blue Jays being a better team. I think this division, while I do still think the Yankees will win it, and I think it will be a pretty definitive division victory. I would
hold
not
on, Chris. Hold on a second. Ladies and gentlemen, he has finally arrived. Colin McGee, everybody. Yeah. He joins us at the perfect timing. Colin, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us finally.
I'd like to apologize for my delay, but thanks for waiting around for me. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so we're just going over the New York Yankees. Perfect timing. Quickly, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Apologies about that. Quick thoughts about them before we go into the division prediction real quick, like where everyone ranks up. So quick discussion, quick thoughts on the New York Yankees and what they've done this offseason.
Well, we talked a little bit on previous shows with the Yankees offseason. Obviously, re-signing Aaron Judge was so critical. Getting Carlos Rodon is sure to boost that bullpen. Sure to boost that starting rotation, especially since we saw Frankie Montas maybe miss the year. But still, like I said, my concern is just on this lineup. I still don't really know how that's going to go because, yes, you lost Andrew Benintendi in the offseason. I think that was kind of crucial towards kind of diversifying that offense because Benintendi was a lefty, a contact bat. Something the Yankee lineup really does not have a lot of, but I think what's going to be crucial for this lineup going forward is how they are committed to the youth because Isaiah Kiner-Falefa cannot be the opening day shortstop. He cannot be the opening day shortstop. You have to go with Oswald Peraza. Hopefully maybe Anthony Volpe can get called up. Maybe we could see that this season. I mean, we know the Yankees historically have never really called up players at a young age. I mean, we saw Aaron Judge didn't get called up until I believe it was the age of 25, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully we can see Volpe up soon. Jason Dominguez, that's still a long time away. Although
it's
a long time away.
If the New York Yankees were a smart organization, they'd call him up now.
You think so?
I think so, but they're not. Well, listen, I'm not saying they're not smart, but I think I keep talking, but I think they're gonna go with Oswaldo.
I mean, I really hope so because I mean, also it's another person too, Oswaldo Cabrera. We want to see him play the outfield more than we want to see Aaron Hicks, but we don't know what the Yankees are going to go forward looking like there. But also we saw Aaron Judge maybe playing left field. I mean, what do we think about that?
I mean, listen, I wouldn't. That seems like nothing compared to what I read today. That the Yankees are experimenting with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa on left field.
That's even worse. Holy shit.
Listen,
we talked about this briefly before you came on. I think that is horrible. They're putting Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in left field. What is with this man? Like, he's kind of mid in left field. Him and Hicks, I don't think really see the difference. Unless Hicks is a switch hitter, that's the only difference. Like, why? You have people who could play freaking left field. I'd rather Joey Gallo in left field if he's on the Yankees still. Why?
Listen,
I don't get it.
Let me tell you what Yankee fans don't like about Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. He is the biggest NPC you could possibly think of.
Good. I agree.
He 100%. Is. There's no reason to hate a guy like that. You want to say?
No, I was just going to go ahead.
We don't hate him. We hate how the Yankees utilized him. We heard last offseason that the New York Yankees were rumored to acquire Matt Chapman, star third baseman for the Oakland A's, to play shortstop. As we know, he gets traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. Colin, what position did the Blue Jays play him in?
For Matt Chapman?
He had a bounce back year. Star third baseman. Where did the Blue Jays play Matt Chapman this year? They played him at third base, and he has probably the best year of his career because they played him.
Statistically, second best.
Whatever. They played him. Okay. Okay, that's not the point. He has his second best year, whatever, ever in his career. Moving to a new team where he doesn't have the pressure to play a different position. He's playing the position that he's good at playing, the position that has made him an all-star because he's so good at it defensively. They didn't try to do some weird thing moving him to shortstop like the Yankees were going to. And as a result, now he's a franchise player on the Jays, another one that's going to make that team probably a great playoff team. And what do the Yankees do?
Well,
Instead
Chris,
they go acquire Isaiah Connor.
We also talk about Josh Donaldson in that trade too.
Okay, I wasn't even getting to that. What I was doing in talking about this is Isaiah Connor was a third baseman with the Texas Rangers. Yeah. Now I don't care what the Twins were planning on doing, moving him to shortstop, because he got traded to the Twins. But the Yankees instead tried to do that, and it didn't work. And they tried to tell us the whole year that he's some great defender when clearly he's watching routine plays. And despite once in a blue moon, making a really cool play, like once against the Astros, I remember. Overall, awful defensively. And it's not like he's Barry Bonds at the plate. Okay, the guy is as mid as can get and close to below average defensively. Really not that good. And now they're experimenting moving this guy to left field. Left field, one of the most difficult left fields to play in Major League Baseball. They're trying to move this guy over to. Because it worked so well with Matt Carpenter, and it worked so well with Neil Walker, and he worked so well with this is a guy they couldn't even move to left shortstop. They couldn't move him to one position over, and he couldn't be a star player at that position. He couldn't be very good defensively at that position. So now they're moving him over to left field.
I guess the only argument was the Yankees really felt like they had no other option at shortstop at the time.
I mean, the two young guys in the farm system.
But that's once again, that's what we're going back to. That's the problem. The Yankees just don't seem to be willing to call those guys up.
Right, and even then, and that gives I'm not gonna like I said, I'm not gonna talk about the Twins trade because you guys know how I feel about that. That they should have just got Correa instead. That would have just solved every issue. It would have costed less money. It would have been incredible. It would not have hurt this team now. Now we're talking how this team has to focus on these guys next year, Donaldson and IKF. You still have LeMahieu on the roster who we're trying to monitor his health because they didn't want to give him surgery. I mean, this team really doesn't get it. I don't know. I'm not trying to criticize the organization. I don't like doing it because they are they run the team and they get this team to the playoffs, but they don't get it from the not letting young guys playing guys out of position. I don't understand anymore. I really don't. And a lot of I'll just quickly. I mean, and yeah, like I said, like a lot of their inability to get better this year is because of the mistakes they made in the past. And next offseason is another story. There are guys that are going to be out there. Hopefully, Ohtani, maybe Bregman. But listen,
I would love you guys to sign Bregman, and we get Ohtani. I would love that. But besides that fact, Colin, AL East, the whole picture. Who wins and what is the order of teams that you put in for that division? Do you want me to start this? You guys got it?
So, all right, the Orioles, I'm going to start off with them, I guess, because I'll go in order here. So the Orioles had kind of a bounce back year, right? They were, not bounce back, but a miraculous year, really. I mean, the way that team, kind of just they've been bad for a lot of years, but we saw kind of, the development of those young pieces, that core kind of coming into shape. I really like the Orioles going into next season, but taking a look, I think the Yankees have to win the AL East. I mean, they're still built to win now. I mean, if they don't win the AL East, I still think it's a failure. So you have to imagine they win that. I think probably if you're looking at last place, Boston's going to be in last place because, obviously, I believe it was they lost Bogarts to San Diego.
Bogarts, we signed Devers, and didn't they lose somebody else?
I'm sorry, Red Sox, they lost Bogarts, Martinez.
Well, Martinez, right. That was the other one, yeah.
So looking over the grand scope of this division, I'm actually, if I'm going to go for an order right now, this is just off the top of my head here. I'm going to go Yankees go in first place. I'm going to say the Toronto Blue Jays in second place because, I like how they were playing last year. I'm going to go Baltimore Orioles in third place.
That would be a good.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go Tampa Bay Rays in fourth place and Boston Red Sox in fifth place. Now, the Rays, don't get me wrong, they're still a very well-run team. They seem to find these gems out of nowhere, but I think it just has to eventually come a point where maybe they won't have that success for a season. I mean, they've been kind of piecing to get there, these 90, 100-win seasons off of not really superstar talent, not off a lot of guys who really jump off the page to you. So I'm going to go, I think the Baltimore Orioles have a bounce back year, maybe kind of in wild card contention. I think we might be able to see that. It'd be fun to watch, definitely, with how long that team has been down for. But yeah, that's what I'll go for. I'll go Yankees, Blue Jays, Orioles, Rays and Red Sox.
Well, I just need to bring up something. I 100% agree with that division. My order is the same. Can we briefly talk about how Baltimore? I gotta bring this up. A couple weeks ago, Baltimore's owner went out and said we are not spending over $100 million in payroll. Why? You guys, on paper, if you added a decent starter, I'll throw out a name. I'll throw out Taiwan Walker. I think they're better than Tampa Bay. I think they could be. They have a lot of young
Orioles?
pieces. I think they could be. I mean, I think with more starting pitching depth, I think they could go out and take 2 of 3 from Tampa Bay every time. I mean, they have McClanahan. They have Glass now. They have
Well, Glasnow's hurt, but
Glasnow's hurt now.
They still
They have Baz. They have what? I'm missing somebody. That other right-handed starter I'm forgetting about. They have somebody else. Rasmussen, yeah. They have those guys. But when you look at Baltimore, I like their hitting better. I do. They have Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, who had a great year 2 years ago. You adding guys like Gunnar Henderson, who I think could get called up this year. Adley Rutschman behind the plate. They have pieces. Their pitching is so awful. I still think it's really bad. And I think if they added Jordan Lyles.
I think it's underrated.
It could be underrated, but I still think it's terrible. I think if you want to call yourselves a contender, I'm going to call them the vice versa of the Marlins, because the Marlins have good pitching and their offense is horrible. The Orioles have a better offense and their starting pitching is a dumpster fire. It could be a dumpster fire. We don't really know. That's the problem.
They're like Dansby Swanson was a good fit, I thought there, but even then,
I thought Correa was going to go there.
Right,
to be honest.
but again, that's the thing.
But they had to be cheap about it.
And of course, they said they were going to spend money this offseason. They lied to their
Frauds.
fans. They got Kyle Gibson. That's a decent little signing, but nothing
They
great. He
got Kyle Gibson and Jordan Lyles. What they do?
They didn't get Jordan Lyles. They lost him.
Oh, they lost Jordan Lyles.
Right, they got Kyle.
He had
Gibson.
He had a 5 ERA anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Decent pitcher, but no, yeah, I think they're going to be more exciting. Really, it's tough for a lot of changes in a baseball season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would also go with the Orioles third. I think they have what it takes. I think down the stretch that bullpen was great, and they lost Jorge Lopez, and the pitching was still solid.
That hurt. That really hurt for me. They traded
solid.
Trey Mancini. That hurt even more.
Right, and the offense is still there.
I thought quickly on Trey Mancini, I thought he would be a forever Baltimore Oriole. For like when he overcame cancer, he did all this miraculous stuff. Called up as a prospect right after Oriole decided to start tanking. He's been very good for Baltimore. You go out and trade him, and he wins a ring. I felt horrible when that happened because I felt like he'd be. I'm not going to call him Chris Davis because Chris Davis fell off a cliff, but I think Trey Mancini would have been the perfect lifetime Baltimore career in Baltimore. I think he would have been perfect there, to be honest. But real quick before we go into our question of the week, which is a sport we haven't touched on yet. Who do you think is going to be the most like an underrated playoff contender in the American League and the National League this year? There are not a lot of options for this. I'll go first because to give you guys a chance. My American League team is going to be Baltimore. I think Baltimore. My prediction for Baltimore was, and what I was thinking was, their first half horrible. They're going to go remember when the Nationals won the World Series and how bad their first half was? I mean, it's going to be something along those lines. I think Baltimore finishes in third, like we all agreed on, and they go out and make the wild card. Nationally, not a lot of options as well. I'm going to go with they're not going to make the playoffs. I think they can make a run at it. Arizona. Arizona is my underrated team this year. Last year, when I've been on record before, we did a mini podcast back at my high school. My underrated team last year was the Giants, and then they fell off a cliff. This year, I'm going with another National League West team, the Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks have some decent pieces. They did just trade Dalton Varsho, which is kind of sad. I thought he'd be another good long-term piece for the Diamondbacks. The problem with Arizona, and this is going to hurt their future so much, they have no idea what they're doing. Like, I remember years ago, they decided to suck. They traded Goldschmidt. They traded other pieces. And then they went out and traded for Starling Marte? Like,
yeah,
whoever their GM is, you need a direction. If they have a sound direction and do everything that they need to do, they could be a third-place team in that National League West. I do. I think they're going to finish third in the West this year. Now, granted, their win total will not justify a third-place finish, but I think they're going to finish in third. By the way, quick NL West prediction, Rockies in last because their starting pitching is going to fall off a cliff, and they're going to get destroyed because they play at Coors Field. Fourth place is the Giants, starting pitching. They have Logan Webb, and that's about it. I think that's all. And you tried for Correa. You're going to suck now because you don't have like any really good core players.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, San Francisco. You win 75 games. And then the Diamondbacks are going to go 79 and 85, I think would be the right math for this. Or 79 and 83. I don't know what it is. It's something along those lines. Colin, do you have your underrated and overrated team?
Well, I actually have two teams in mind for the American League. I'm not really sure if they're underrated, but I don't think people are really kind of thinking of them as a World Series contender. What about the Cleveland Guardians?
Ooh,
because,
that context I like.
Because I don't think they're a sleeper, but I think they're more dangerous than people are giving them credit for. Because we were talking a lot about before, I believe me and Chris were talking about last year that we didn't think the Guardians were going to even finish like top three in that division. We thought they were going to come in fourth or fifth place.
Really?
Yeah, but they surprised a lot of people. They really.
With the Royals.
But I mean, back then, that's back when Chicago was at the top of the division, and Minnesota had that big move for Correa. But the Guardians kind of rose above that all, and took over that division. So I think that they can kind of keep up that momentum. Obviously still with Terry Francona as manager, a guy who's gotten a lot out of his teams, and the second year kind of with this core, is still developing. I think they're going to be a team to really watch out for in the American League. I'm not sure if they're really a sleeper, but at least I can say I'm really interested to watch what the Texas Rangers are this season, because we saw, last year, paying for Simeon, playing for Seager, didn't really work out. Just fascinating to see how Jacob deGrom plays out there. I mean, we saw that when the guy's healthy, granted, he can never stay healthy, but he was having one of the greatest pitching seasons we could have ever seen if he stayed healthy with the Mets. We were just really, I believe at one point he had under a 1 ERA for most of that season with the Mets.
With who? With
the Mets back in 2021 or 2022. DeGrom.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal stretch, but he ended up getting hurt. So if Jacob deGrom could ever stay healthy for a full year, this Texas Rangers team is going to be very dangerous. But granted, that's probably not going to happen. They'll probably end up being like how they usually are. But still, it's going to be a fun watch. And if we're just going for a complete, bottom feeder team that maybe could turn it around, how about Miami? I think Miami is a fun watch, and they got a lot of young talent there. We saw Sandy Alcantara, win the Cy Young, and we have Jazz Chisholm. He's a guy who is generating a lot of excitement, for being a young talent who could potentially continue to blossom. And, we've seen the pattern. A lot of NL East teams are making it to the World Series recently. So either the Mets or the Marlins. Who's going to be next up? Well, Marlins have a lot of young talent. I'm not sure if it will translate this year, but I'm really interested to see how they could possibly go forward in the future of their rebuild.
First of all, I want to address, we got a lot of in the chat. I just want to
You guys are popping off in the chat. Shout out to the chat. I mean, you guys are popping off today.
It's just two people. Anyway.
I know.
Two people, and we got I don't know. It's got to be more than 20, because there's got to be more that I'm not even seeing up there.
I don't know, but shout out to the chat
anyway.
because you guys are popping off today. First time we've ever had something like this. Shout out to the chat,
right? Because they're addressing them when I said about Matt Chapman. All right, I didn't mean to say he was I didn't mean to say he was an MVP contender or whatever.
Tell him, Chris.
I didn't mean to say he was some MVP contender or whatever. But the point for that, right? Because they're talking about it. Point is, very good defender at third base. Good power hitter, good player, fits the team well. They traded for him to play third base. I mean, it wasn't that bad. He was good. 27 homers, 7.57 OPS, great defense at third. They didn't try to experiment. They didn't try to experiment. It's not. I mean, it's not bad.
Not horrible, but it's
right?
not like
it's close. It's good. It's decent. And you kept him at third base, and he was good. He was a good player. All right, okay. I guess I get it. I was exaggerating, but still. And he had a good August, I'm pretty sure, or something like that.
He had like a 300 plus average.
But the point is, right, with the Yankees, right, they try to experiment with him and a guy with the guy at a different position. The Blue Jays didn't do that, and it worked out pretty well for them. That's the point. Anyway, underrated teams. I'll start with the National League. I got the Chicago Cubs.
Love it.
Added Jameson Taillon, added Cody Bellinger. I believe they added someone else I'm currently forgetting, but they had a decent little lineup already. They did lose Wilson Contreras, but they replaced him with Tucker Barnhart, who's a good defender, good defensive catcher. Yeah. Cody Bellinger, very bad couple years recently. Very, very bad. Still a very good defender and looking to get back where he was a few years ago with the Cubs. He also changed his swing up a bit because he's known for doing that. They have Seiya Suzuki still, but even like the pitching, right? And in the lineup too. It's not. They don't have a star player. They also added Dansby Swanson. How could I forget about that? Good player. It's not. They don't have a superstar player. They don't have a Harper or a Judge or a Trout or an Ohtani, right? It's just a group of guys who I think a group of veterans, decent middle-aged players, and some rookies. Guys like Hayden Wesneski in the rotation, and Javier Assad. Guys like Marcus Stroman and Jamison Tyone and Kyle Hendricks, veterans like him. It's just a perfect mix. You got Dansby Swanson, very good player, got paid a lot of money, but solid group, solid guy, and a solid group. And I think that's going to help this team, that chemistry. I think not having that superstar player and having just a group, having it be a group effort, I think they're definitely a team to watch. I don't know if they can get it to the World Series or anything like that. I think they can definitely come in second in this division. They could probably knock off the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals got better, but I think they can. They obviously took from the Cubs, got Wilson Contreras, but I think they can. I think it's possible if they surprise people. I think their biggest issue is the bullpen by far. It's not a very good bullpen at all, but teams, that's how teams usually work, right? Or not all teams. I'm saying it's been seen before that teams don't have great bullpens, but have good first halves, get good bullpens by the deadline, so they can do that. As for the American League, that one's difficult as well because a lot of teams got better that have expectations, like the Guardians, for example, right? I think they are still underrated, adding just Josh Bell. So, but I think I'm gonna go with the Twins. I think
I'll count that.
because I'm not very high on them because I want to say the Guardians or the Rangers, but I feel like they're kind of at this point, honestly. I feel like people are expecting quite a bit from them because the Rangers got the rotation now. They also don't really have the bullpen. They have the rotation. They have a decent offense, a good offense. They're definitely one to watch. But I guess I'll go with the Twins. I mean, they added Carlos Correa. I'm not expecting all that much from them.
Yeah.
They got Sonny Gray and Joe Ryan and they added Pablo
Chris
Lopez
Paddock.
to the bullpen.
Pablo
He's
Lopez is for the
ERA.
rotation. I think Pablo Lopez was probably the best.
Paddock is not good, but he's
Decent. He's your
he's
5
decent.
starter. He's okay.
I mean, I think in the bullpen, they have Johan Duran.
Johan Duran throws
Jorge
absolute
Lopez,
gas. Jorge Lopez.
Right. They brought back Correa, as I said. Jose Moran is a very good young player. I mean,
They've got potential.
The big thing with them is Byron Buxton staying healthy. That's the reason why they're always mid. I think it's because he's always unhealthy. I think if he could finally stay healthy, he would be he'd
be pretty good.
Be decent. So I think I'll go with the Minnesota Twins.
All right. Well, it is now time for the question of the day. I know the chat. I gotta shout you guys out again. You guys have wanted this all day, and we're gonna do a sport that we have yet to do. The National Hockey League. You guys, shout out to AG, the Giants fan. Go follow my man on TikTok. He wanted a shout out. There you go. Patrick Kane traded to the New York Rangers. That's the question. What are your thoughts on it? I have my little hockey knowledge. I'll start with this one. Patrick Kane to the Rangers is desperation. I think the one word to describe it. Desperation. There's not really many ways to characterize it. First off, the trade, a 3-team trade with Chicago, New York, and Arizona. Arizona retained salary. They got like a 3rd-round pick out of it too. I don't know why, but the Rangers, they made some great moves. I think they've had a phenomenal deadline, with the deadline being tomorrow. Right. They added Vladimir Tarasenko on the wing. I think he's a phenomenal get. Patrick Kane's the one part I don't like about Patrick. 2 things. One, his contract is horrible, and 2, he's kind of old. So I don't know. I mean, you wanted to. I think it was Timo. At the end of the year. I think so. Yeah. But they wanted Timo Meyer, fair play, New Jersey.
That was Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah. Great trade by New Jersey. But I think Patrick Kane seems a little I don't want to say redundant, but I think he gives you more star power, the veteranosity, the experience. He's won multiple cups in Chicago. Right. I think he's a decent little get for the Rangers. Now, Granted, they didn't really have to give up much, but I think the Rangers have been hinting at this trade for, I think, multiple weeks. And I think it was a move that I think they really wanted.
It's really been rumored for months now. I feel like I've heard about this being a possibility. Listen, I don't know about the Rangers as much as I do my other teams, but I am a Rangers fan. I mean, I think the way to look at it is, of course, Patrick Kane, not the player maybe he was in his prime, but a good player, still got like 16 goals this offseason. Still good. I mean, towards the end, definitely 34 years old. But you think about it this way. I think to sum it up in one sentence, last trade deadline, it was Kopp and Frank Vetrano as your trade deadline acquisitions.
Kopp, Andrew,
Frank Vetrano.
I think Tyler Mott was a deadline pickup last year at center. I think
those were the 2.
I think it was the other one. I think was it Tyler Mott?
Anyway,
Someone in the chat, if you guys want to help me out here, correct me if I'm wrong.
Coppin, Vetrano to Tarasenko and Kane this year. Come on. I think it's a pretty good trade deadline, and it's already a good team that definitely, I think, again, I don't know too much about them, but I know for sure it's an improvement. And I mean, I'm hearing maybe, Boston's tough. Boston's been great this season.
They re-signed Pastrnak to a ginormous contract today. I think it was like almost $100 million.
Jersey's got the better record, and they're there still, and they're a really good team. But
there's other teams in that division you talk about. I think Carolina's kind of nice. Toronto always in that mix. There's a lot of teams in that Eastern Conference. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch for sure.
Right, I'll definitely tune into the Rangers postseason because they hopefully will make it there. You'd assume. Yeah, I mean, good moves. I think Tarasenko had a tremendous goal yesterday against the Flyers. Really good to win it in overtime. I saw that. That was great. That highlight was awesome. Definitely trying to find his way with the Rangers. And it looks like he has. So Kane will make his debut, I believe, tonight.
I think it's tonight. Senators, I believe it is tonight
at the Garden. So look, and I think he wanted to come here from what I've heard. He had the trade clause in his contract. Yeah. He said it so that he can be here. And you really didn't have to give up all that much to get him either.
I think it was like a third round pick. It's prospect. I don't remember. I don't know the full detail.
It's not a big. Yeah, so good move, good get overall, and definitely makes the Rangers.
Especially with Chicago. I mean, they traded Max Domi today as well. I believe he got traded for a second round pick, which is a decent trade for Chicago. I don't know if Max Domi is really worth a second round pick, but the deadline's been insane. For those who don't know, the deadline is tomorrow, Friday, March 3rd. I don't know what time it's at, to be honest with you, but Colin, you got anything else to mention before we wrap up our show today?
Well, I don't know if you guys covered in the NBA today, but I did want to highlight, because I see Chris wearing the RJ Barrett jersey. I wanted to, get into a little bit the New York Knicks 7-game winning streak. They've had some pretty good wins, all right, Chris? We saw a win against the Celtics, saw a win against the Nets last night. Jalen Brunson had 30 points in that first half. So I wanted, as a Knicks fan, I kind of want you to talk about the Knicks a little bit.
Eastern Conference Player of the Month, I believe he just won. I mean, really, what the Knicks are, we talked about. It's nothing really new with this team. It's a group of guys again, and kind of like I was saying with the Cubs, right? I think it's just a group of guys. There's no star. They play very well together. A move that they made at the deadline we were talking about was Josh Hart, who seems like he's fitting in very well. The chemistry, right? It's shying away from adding stars, right? We wanted Mitchell. Instead, we got Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson. Wasn't ideal, right? But it's worked out very, very well. The chemistry, right? They're great. Great together. I mean, the Knicks, right? Jalen Brunson is probably the best point guard. The Knicks, definitely the best point guard the Knicks have had in a very long time. Josh Hart's a great passer, great great guy. Giving the ball to Julius and Brunson a lot. I'm pretty sure. Of course, RJ Barrett's still struggling to get back. A guy like Mitchell Robinson's been a lot better as of late. And overall, they're just putting it together. And like I said, I mean, it's a lot of points coming from them. I mean, I think last time they scored less than 90 points, less than 100 points was like got to be, I think, back in, I don't know, but it's been quite a while. I mean, they just demolished the Celtics the other night and then beat the Nets yesterday. So I mean, it's just been a great group effort by the Knicks, and it's one that you don't really see all that much in the NBA. Will they win a playoff round? I mean, it depends on who they're playing. If they play Cleveland, I think we talked about this. I'm not sure. I feel like we talked about this. Cleveland isn't definitely, I mean, they're a very good team, but definitely not. Crazier things have happened. Once you get to the Celtics, Heat, that's maybe when it gets, or no, Celtics, Bucks, definitely that's when 76ers, that's when maybe it becomes difficult. But overall, I think the Knicks are doing very well. I think they'll go to the playoffs. I think they might surprise some people.
And there's still a couple NBA fans. We still have maybe 2 minutes to get into real quick. So we also have LaMelo Ball going to be out for the year. Ended up fracturing his foot. Also, we saw Kevin Durant.
He could go right for the damn Hornets.
Yep, there's been a lot of problems there. We saw
Imagine real quick if they get Wembanyama to team up with LaMelo Ball. That'd be very interesting for them.
not want that to happen. But anyway, Kevin Durant made his debut for the Phoenix Suns the other night, scoring 23 points. And the one last story before we wrap up, I kind of want to get everyone's take on it real quick, is the LeBron James injury. Now, we heard that in that game against the Mavericks, Lakers had a huge comeback win. Lakers have been playing, pretty solid recently. Some of those pieces are fitting in pretty well. We see Jared Vanderbilt, D'Angelo Russell kind of coming into the fold. But LeBron said he felt like he heard something pop. He ended up playing the rest of the game. Lakers had a comeback win over the Mavericks, but now it seems like LeBron James is out indefinitely. There's been reports coming out they don't know when he's coming back, and they may have to have a playoff run without him. So I kind of want to, even though they still are at the bottom of the standings, Lakers are still one of the most easily talked about teams in the NBA. So it's only fair we talk about them here. What do you think? What do we think is going to happen to the Lakers going forward, at least for the end of the season, before we wrap up?
I don't know. I mean, of course, I think what we talked about with the Lakers is kind of getting more team players, right? Shying away from your Russell Westbrooks and stopping that three-headed monster and getting guys who can maybe get the ball to LeBron a lot more. But now with LeBron getting hurt, I mean, I think it really is the nail in the coffin for the Lakers. I mean,
the writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall.
Point, right. Even you can look at a team like the Knicks and how they're getting it done without any stars, right? Julius Randle, maybe he's a third guy at best on a team with stars. But I don't think I think this really puts the nail in the coffin. I don't know how you can make a playoff run without LeBron.
Anthony Davis is playing some good basketball, right? But it's just like once again, like even with LeBron and AD, you still weren't winning. So I don't know. So
I think that's it for
Robbie. Your last take before we wrap up.
The writing's on the wall. I'll go for like 10 seconds on this. The writing's on the wall. I don't know what they do, to be honest. I mean, they could have added more at the trade deadline, but I mean, I don't know. We really don't know. But unfortunately for us, that is all for this episode of Into the Stands, episode 17. Preview for next week. Next week, episode 18, NFL free agency special, since it starts when we're on break. So for the quick schedule for you guys, we have next week's episode, and then the week afterwards, we will not have an episode, unfortunately, because it's going to be during break. But thank you guys for watching this episode. It's been a lot of fun. Colin, thank you for joining us. Chris, as always. And to make sure to tune in at 5 o'clock every single week when we're live. And we'll see you guys next time. I didn't